You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price experience.
Ian Price.
Ben.
Great second name.
Absolutely.
Non-related. Or maybe, you know.
Distantly, perhaps.
Distantly, yeah.
Yeah.
My first question to all of my guests is, who are you and why are you here?
Who am I? Ian David Price, coach, mentor, guide, husband, father, brother, someone whose values revolve around caring, sharing, courage, curiosity, lifelong learning. And so I guess why I'm here is here's an opportunity to be curious about this experience, perhaps to share some of my experience, expertise, knowledge, and wisdom, and to learn throughout. So that's why I'm here, apart from the obvious, you invited me.
What do you feel like your here on planet Earth is?
My purpose in life is to be the best version of me, and the best version of me is helping others be the best version of themselves.
Nice. And how do you find how do you help others be the best version of them?
Principally, that is around as coach, mentor, and guide, and a belief that people are incredible, that they are capable of incredible and amazing things. And the role for me is to unlock their full potential. Some of that through just coming from a place of curiosity and potentially challenge. All too often, folks do not allow their full light to shine. And that often comes from a place of fear, or it comes from a place where they have blind spots, or that they have a sense of being less than they could be or less than they should be.
And where do you think that starts for? And obviously, you mainly work with entrepreneurs, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think that starts, and how, why is that a problem for entrepreneurs in particular?
Where does it start? It often starts in that early experiences, potentially early conditioning that many of us encounter in our early years, that we pick up perhaps beliefs that can undermine the achievement of our full potential. And sometimes that obviously can come from very difficult, challenging, abusive backgrounds at its worst. But equally well, it can just come from well-meaning environments where the wrong narratives get built up about people being less able and less capable than they might be. That there may well be some people that want to protect us in our younger years from pain and failure, and therefore never give us the opportunity to rise and shine. How that impacts people when it comes to entrepreneurs is, that there are those who encounter or experience what's labeled as imposter syndrome, that people don't feel that they are deserving of the success that they potentially could have, should have, or do experience. It may lead to those, as I've said, blind spots and limiting beliefs. That again, therefore, means that those people in entrepreneurial roles do not necessarily succeed or enjoy their success as much as they might. In that regard, that's where some of those challenges manifest themselves.
Yeah, the wrong narratives thing. I did a talk the other day, and I decided I was going to open it up by insulting my audience.
Okay.
So I just went, "You're too big for your boots. Who do you think you are? You need to wind your neck in.
Okay.
You need to man up."
Provocative.
And my thinking is that's kind of, obviously, like you said, some of it can be genuinely traumatic stuff. And then I think the other like less well-meaning stuff is just little phrases like that we just grew up with that basically tell you to wind your neck in and stop being too big for your boots. And that can be a problem when you're trying to put yourself out there.
You know, it's interesting. I worked with someone and I was talking to them recently, and they talked about the fact that, you know, appearance is really important to them, and how they, you know, show up in the way that they're dressed, the way that they're presented is really important, and that becomes important, that they judge others by those same standards.
Mm.
And in some respects, it was proving detrimental in their relationships. And when I explored that with them, I said, you know, where do you think that comes from? And they struggled with that until I explored. I said, so, for example, did your mum ever kind of do the scan as you're about to go out as a teen? Yeah. Top to bottom, and or in fact say, oh, you're wearing that,
Yeah.
and or you're not going out in that, are you?
Yeah.
And those things might be quite innocuous, you know,
Yeah.
but what's the narrative that it sets up inside? It sets up those narratives of, I'm not good enough. Yeah. I don't look right. My appearance isn't great. And of course, some people take that a little more deeply than just it's the wrong shoes or the wrong, you know, clothing. Yeah. It's me. You know, I don't look right. Yeah. And so that narrative was where that individual, you know, that's where that narrative started. And I don't think that that necessarily was from a place of, you know, anything other than love, really, but perhaps just misdirected or miscommunicated. But it's led to this deep-seated narrative about how I look and how I show up and am I enough and how I judge other people, you know?
Yeah. And it's probably worth saying as well that you're not working with startups. You're working with generally quite established businesses.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And so this stuff still is showing up at £1 million, £2 million plus business owners.
And bigger. Yes, absolutely.
Bigger, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And it's still holding them back in building their business.
Yes. Yeah. I work with some incredibly, you know, mature, sophisticated people who have huge levels of self-awareness. And I'm fortunate enough, therefore, to have conversations with people who've got that level of awareness and are able to reflect upon some of those things that they would like to work on. And it is still challenging. Yeah, it's that constant challenge for some people to be better and get better at what they do and who they are and how they show up in the world. And equally well, we are all capable of those missteps, of letting those behaviors that potentially sabotage us do exactly that, you know, sabotage who we are and what we are and how we're therefore showing up.
And what's the remedy that you use to overcome this?
I think I'm a little uneasy at the idea of remedy. Occasionally I will say with my tongue firmly in my cheek and with a sense of fun, you know, that Ian's clinic is open, but I do make it very strongly aware that, you know, I play in the space of between coach, mentor, and guide, and not perhaps in those areas of more
healing,
counseling, therapy, healing. You know, so remedy. I'm going to challenge that word, Ben. But if it's so, what do I do, or how do I approach? It starts from a place of curiosity and helping others curious and getting them to self-reflect and reflect on how they are showing up, what's going on for them. I will often talk about, you know, because it's a simple metaphor of the left brain, right brain, so the logical, rational versus that emotional, and get people to not just explore from the point of the rational, logical, which appears to be the driving force behind how they may be showing up, to get them to explore, so what are some of more the emotional and feeling things that are showing up? Because of course some of those challenges that people face will manifest themselves more in the emotional and the feeling than they will in their thinking.
But that side of the brain, or that the emotions, which are not necessarily just in the brain, but they affect ultimately the decision making, which is what you help with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
among many things. But
Yeah.
can you talk to us a bit about how you guide the decision making process and considerations that you have?
So yeah, I mean, I have the view that decision making and good decision making and good judgment is one of those, truly important foundational things for all of us.
Mm.
And that I'm fascinated by the fact that, there are those who do not necessarily make good decisions. And the fact that there are some folks who are incredibly accomplished in all kinds of areas and yet still, and can be incredibly smart, but still make poor decisions. And absolutely, some of that comes from, quite often, strongly, that emotional sense. Some of those things may well be decisions that are being driven by emotion. In talking to you about your family's experience recently, there's just a huge amount of emotion involved. The decision making, which involves our families, because it's about our loving, caring, close relationships, and so emotion can tend to overwhelm what I think is often one of the most important parts of decision making, which is having a process for making good decisions and rendering good judgments. What some of the underlying challenges of good decision making and good judgment is that people decide too quickly, they decide too slowly, they decide from a place of emotion, or they become things like data obsessed. I need more information, and the reality for many decisions is it's just truly uncertain. Now, the kind of too quick about decision making can be very emotional. That too slow can be very emotional. The fact that making decisions around loved ones just becomes very, very emotional. And so, emotion plays an important part in understanding good decision making, and can have an influence on good decision making.
Do you ever, so on the whole, do you feel as though there's too much emotion? Because obviously there are some who don't have enough. And I think perhaps more men than women, as in like men tend to find it. I think we're trained to, it's not accepted. It's not quite so socially accepted for men to be or to experience their emotions in the same way that women do. So is there a difference between men and women?
There's information which creates kind of, archetypal or average kind of views of this. That yes, that men tend to have an overconfidence around decision making.
Okay. Yeah.
And that they perhaps have a greater risk tolerance, and that they tend to be faster in their decision making, and are more likely to be, as it were, act fast, act early, in very generic early, and some of those things may well be attributable to what others might describe as those masculine tendencies. We are the decision maker, we are the problem solver as men. We are expected to act decisively. And again, there are these archetypes about what leadership is, and leadership is the decision maker and, the pinnacle of organizations, when in fact, I think leadership is about how you create the environment for the most people to flourish. And, equally well, some of those kind of average archetypal view of men, the average archetypal for women is, that they are lower overconfidence, that they are perhaps more calibrated or capable of thinking about their decisions, that they have a higher risk awareness, that they are more likely to seek input from others. So whereas men may well be, oh, I can make that decision, it's me, that women have a tendency, on average, to seek more input and consider the impact, and generally speaking, are more reflective about their decision making. And again, that might sit with some of the more feminine archetypes. Yeah.
When you use the word archetypes, what do you mean?
There's an old phrase of, women can't read maps and men don't ask for directions. It's that kind of, that sense of men are expected to be able to interpret maps, but won't ask for help. Yeah. Women, of course, their first step is to ask for help for others, but, perhaps aren't great at interpreting data. They are long held tropes and archetypes which don't necessarily hold water and are not, not something I would reinforce, but it's a way of understanding behavioral preferences, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's masculine and feminine traits which don't always align to man and woman, because some...
Indeed, yes.
Anyway. Okay, well, so I think one of the things that stood out to me is, I think because we're gonna talk about, I think, the judgment process that you've created and you've got, but I think also to consider, I think, as a listener, is that when we're talking about this, emotions aren't necessarily a bad thing, and correct me, Ian, if you think differently, but they're not necessarily a bad thing, but also don't base all of your decisions on them.
I think that's fair.
They give you good data.
Yeah, emotion, we are emotional beings, as much as we are rational, logical. So that they have their place. It's knowing and understanding, as it were, both. It's therefore knowing and understanding. Is that an emotion that's influencing me right now? And it's that ability, therefore, to step back and observe that and say, okay, yeah, that's a very emotional reaction. That's coming from whatever that emotion may well be, and understanding it, the role it plays, just as much as, okay, I'm stepping back and I'm observing my thinking and where that thinking may be coming from and what that influence that thinking has. And I think both therefore are important. Those people who say, it's I always trust my gut. Yeah. Well, apart from the fact that, the neuroscience now begins to tell us how many kind of cells and the like our guts have that are akin to our brain cellular activity, that has its merit. But I think sometimes that's got it's my instinct, it's my emotional understanding. It has its place, but to do that all the time, not rely on data, not to rely on information, not to rely on evidence, doesn't necessarily make sense. Equally well, to perhaps be unempathetic, all the data, it's all the evidence, doesn't necessarily work successfully.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've got a decision I need to make, actually, which we could probably run through this process.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess it's kind of which direction do I take my business in? And I think that probably this is a useful one, because I'm sure that other people have this. And so one direction is I continue to work with entrepreneurs and leadership teams. And the other direction is I work more with schools and young men. Both different audience, same kind of thing, but obviously different audiences, different marketing approaches.
Yeah.
And I want to do both, but then I always say to my clients, like, well, if you had a gun against your head and you had to pick one, which one would you pick? So maybe that's not the best approach.
Well, it's an approach, yeah. and when one wonders, whether the gun to the head is ever a good idea, as a decision-making criteria, because under those circumstances,
don't usually do that straight away, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, comes back to one of those things is that I'm not certain that, the best decision making, good judgment is rendered from a place of fear,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and, therefore, under these circumstances, its starting place is, to remove the fear wherever possible from your decision
Yeah.
making. Yeah.
I also think there's another thing that's, I think, again, this will be relevant to anyone listening and you've probably heard this, like the grass is always greener on the other side, and there's a load of shit you got to wade through a load of shit to get to that green grass. And so when you're in the shit a bit, you can see some other green grass over there, but you can't see the shit that you've got to get through to get to that green grass. And so I'm like mindful that I could be in that place as well.
Yeah, and again, from a personal experience point of view, I've developed the sense that the night is darkest just before the dawn. But we never quite know when we're in the dark when that dawn is going to arise. Yeah,
it's like being an inch away from the gold in the mine.
Exactly. Or the fact that it's a wall. You are up against a wall, but that's all it is. It's a wall, and on the other side of the wall is success or whatever.
Mm.
So one of the important things as part of the process that I encourage people to pursue is to remove the sense of inevitability or irreversibility. So
That's good. Yeah.
it's the fact that you say, okay, you're looking at two potential routes. And if you pursue one, you can't pursue the other. And it may make sense for you to put all of your efforts, your energy, your time, your commitment, enthusiasm into one of those. But it's pilot it, test it, trial it, set yourself certain senses of how or what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, nice. So do a little trial period.
Do a trial period,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And if that does prove to be the green grass you're looking for, then fantastic. Yeah.
How long would you consider a trial period typically?
Well, so I kind of wind back a little bit, which is, and this is the very kind of Stephen Covey thing. Start with the end in mind. What does success look like for you in either option? So if you say, right, I want to go into schools and young people and young men, and that's, so what does success look like? And that might be the long-term success with the big, hairy, audacious goal. I want to change the world in this way. But equally well, it's so what might success look like for, a trial? What might success look like for me pursuing this for a day, a week, a month? What are the things that will give you an indication of success? So in that regard, it's, how long might a trial be? Well, it's as long or as short as it begins to give you the sense of my achieving, for those people who do tend to perhaps overthink, procrastinate, take too long to decide. One of the ways of overcoming that is setting those short-term, small, goals. If this happens, then I'll decide that. If that happens, then I'll decide, this.
Yeah. Okay. That's useful. I think my mind also typically, I've been told I'm a visionary. So my mind typically goes big, hairy, audacious goal immediately. Like I'm going to transform the whole of the UK's education system and everyone's going to have initiation. And
good. Crack on, Ben. Come on, let's have that.
And at the age of 16, everyone in the UK will go for an initiation.
Hey, beautiful. Yeah. So that is your ultimate hairy, audacious goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to my mind, it is how do you chunk that down to, the most immediate outcome that you would want to see. If we're in this framework of saying, okay, I've got a couple of choices and I'm choosing to go down the young people route, and ultimately I want everybody in the UK at 16 to be undertaking an initiate, then what's the immediate indicator that you could set that would say you focusing your time, energy, and effort into that, yeah, would have an outcome, yeah, and
Yeah.
go, okay, this is what I did, this is what I got, next step, next step, next step, yeah.
Yeah.
If, however, yeah, either that is just problematic, then it begins to widen out into the, good judgment and good decision making. Who else do I need to talk to? Who else can help me and give me a perspective on this?
Mm.
Again, it comes back to that thing of decisions made in a vacuum, yeah, by one person, yeah, perhaps could be questionable.
Mm-hmm.
But if what you do is say, okay, I think I should go and talk to several people to get a perspective on my decision.
Yeah, that's good. So that reminds me of Who Not How a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And some of these things is, it's getting this balance between rushing into decisions, yeah, and also potentially taking too long. So I don't know how long you might have been sitting on this decision as to which route you take. It might have been a little while. And it's therefore for you to kind of sit back and go, yeah, this is a decision that's been sitting around for a while. I'm not making it. So what are those things I can put in place that are going to get me deciding? And so one of those things is, I've been putting it off because I think it is such a major decision, going to be life-changing and irrevocable. Well, that's seldom true. Yeah. So it's how do I step away from that thinking and go, right, what can I do as an immediate step that gives me a sense of whether this is a good idea or not? If I have then a tendency to rush into it, it's setting again, okay, give yourself 24 hours to think about this, to talk to somebody else, to, put both the devil's advocate on your shoulder and get them to truly criticize. Get a group of people to tear apart your ideas, and one of those things is write things down. Yeah, what is it? What is it? The decision I need to make, and what do I need to do? So that's part of the decision making. It might well be you're choosing to go down one route. Then how do I improve that decision making? How do I make sure it's not too quick? How to make it's not too slow? What's the information that I need? Yeah. What emotion do I bring to it?
So kind of like red teaming.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the mum test?
The mum test. Tell me more.
Well, I was hoping you were familiar with it. I think it's kind of what you just said, which is like, if you tell your mum an idea,
Right.
she's probably going to say, yeah, it's a good idea. And you need to not do that. You need to go and tell your idea to somebody who isn't going to necessarily agree with you.
Yes, absolutely. It does have, well, it's the idea often of triangulation. Yeah. It's having 2 or 3 people that you talk to who are likely to have a different perspective on it. Because you're right, your mum may not necessarily be someone who objectively evaluates your decision. Yeah. They just go, whatever Ben does, it's going to be fabulous because I just love Ben.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So basically I need to so for this particular decision, set a time frame with an indication of some success.
Yes.
Which could be a signed contract with a single school.
Yes.
And then if it doesn't happen by a certain time, decisions kind of made.
No, if I ask you the question, so okay, that first test may be getting an agreement with one school. Then what would success look like with that school? Yeah, in what time frame? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it breaks down into those smaller steps. Is if you go and talk to the people and go, yeah, we think this is a great idea and we want to engage with this. Yeah. Is at what rate are people signing up? At what rate are you getting cohorts of people to talk to within that school? Yeah. And is that happening within a week? Is it happening within a month? Is it happening within a term? Is it happening within an academic year? You know, and therefore you might say, okay, if this is going to be successful, that's the outcome over an academic year that I've seen a number of, kids, I've seen a number of cohorts. If it's within a term, it's, have I got, how many conversations have I had? How many sessions have I held? It's all giving you that sense of, okay, I'm a term in and nothing's happened. Yeah. So do I get to reevaluate at this point? Yeah. And what's the information? Yeah. And how am I feeling about this? And perhaps, that's where you have the conversations with other folks as well.
Have a conversation with who? Other folks?
Yeah. Yeah. Because people, and that may well be those people who are part of that decision. So obviously talking to the folks in the school, is this happening? Is it working? Is it making a difference? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why or why not? Why are we not getting the cohorts in to engage with this? But it's also talking to those people outside. Yeah. So, those people are going to say, so how much time are you spending on this, Ben? Are you getting the result that you want? Yeah. Asking those questions that, you may be asking yourself, but getting somebody else with a different perspective on it would be useful.
Yeah, that's good. I think that making this a live conversation is quite useful, isn't it? Because it makes it real.
Yeah.
And I'm getting some free coaching from you, which is amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I suppose the consideration is, where do you put for me, it's like, where do I put my marketing budget and effort, because so that's the decision that I really need to make, is like going all in on one. And I suppose, like you said before, though, it can easily be reversed. You'd have wasted a few grand or something, but you wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's, given that I have a professional background in betting and gaming, I get very uneasy at the phrase "all in." It means something specific, and I work with a number of North American clients, and they go, "Oh, are you all in on this?" And I kind of go, "No, not really." Yeah, because the idea of all in, every single penny I have, all on the table. Yeah, no. Yeah, never a wise strategy in my opinion. Works under some very small circumstances. So the idea of, yes, you may choose to focus your marketing spend on one area rather than the other. Yeah. But just for clarity, you're not about to go and stick the house on it, as it were. It is, again, those small incremental. Yeah. Have I spent £1,000 and got some value on it? Great. Am I going to spend the next 1,000? Might I spend, several thousand on this? Yeah. Just makes more sense to go, let's sling 10,000 at it, see what happens, Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. So I had a coach, and he was a phenomenal coach, who used to use the phrase "going all in" because he realized that most people weren't going all in, but perhaps not on a marketing budget, more in your relationship or in your, in your business or.
Totally. And therefore, yes, it's worthy of understanding, what is holding somebody back from committing to something, and putting their focus, their attention, their energies, their enthusiasm into something. I think that's important in understanding. So what is it that's holding you back? Yeah. And what is it that potentially is preventing you from thinking, actually, that is something that I even want to trial? Yeah. Comes back to that kind of procrastination, or it's because there are those either limiting beliefs that are sitting behind, or those blind spots, or those saboteurs showing up. Worthwhile just reflecting on, so why am I apprehensive about spending any marketing budget on this? So from that point of view, the all in has a different context.
Yeah, I was actually thinking I might do like an 80-20 approach, which is sort of, so I could do that for a trial, see if that 20% makes any difference or not. Do you think that's a good idea, or would you?
What makes you think it's a good idea?
I've only spoken to 2 head teachers so far, and they both really loved it. So that was really good feedback from only a small number, but one of those head teachers was she was American, and she was like state level, she was some state level educator. So she knew she wasn't just a head teacher. She was she was in kind of, I don't know, in charge, I don't know if that's the right word, but of a lot of schools she knew about. And she said, I've never seen anything like this. I think this is amazing. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is there is a government push towards solving misogyny in schools.
Yep.
Male suicide is also really high. And I think initiation is the solution.
Right.
I don't know of anyone else offering this kind of thing to schools. There might be, but I don't know of it. There are a few charities around which are doing this kind of work, but it's more like somebody would choose to go and do that rather than it being a school pathway.
So
it feels like there's a gap in the market there.
Sure. So,
and it's and I've got 2 sons who I really, so emotionally I'm like, I want this to be a thing.
Right. And that's where it gets interesting around our judgment and around our decision making, because we do have a bunch of biases, some of which we are aware of and some of them we are not. If you have an optimism bias, then first of all, you're going to believe this is going to be amazing. It's going to be brilliant. Yeah.
That's weird.
If you've got optimism bias, if you talk to 10 people and 9 of them are telling you it's no good, but one says, I think this could work, the optimism bias will upweight that one piece of feedback versus the 9. So if you've had 2 teachers talk to you, or 2 head teachers, or 2 superintendents, or whatever they happen to be, and they're saying, I think this is a good idea, then you may well be upweighting that, So the question is, what are other people saying? Yeah.
No one's really said anything negative about it so far. But then maybe you're right. Maybe I have an optimism bias and I'm just ignoring the negative biases. I don't think anyone said anything negative.
Well, so that's the thing. It's getting those information that allows you to make a really great decision. Yeah. And it comes back to that. If you step back, already in our conversation, I've suggested that, hang on a minute, you've talked to 2 people. If we step back, and we're 6 months down the line, and let's say for a moment it hasn't gone well, and we start to say, okay, what led us to this point? How many people said it was going to be a success? And you go, well, there were 2 people, back in March who said it was a great.
And my mum, that makes
it 3. And my mum. then we might kind of go, okay, perhaps we should have explored this a little more widely. Confirmation bias, is the moment that we see something that we like the idea. Oh, see, there's the evidence. I think this is going to be great, and there's the evidence because 2 head teachers, superintendents, school boards have said it's a great idea. Yeah,
it's a good point. And so, what other biases do I need to be aware of?
Urgency bias.
Oh, that's a good one.
Got to do it, and I've got to do it now.
That definitely feels like it could be a relevant one, because then I'm like, I know there's a push from the government to do something about it. Someone's going to do it if I don't do it.
And again, seldom is there that real sense of urgency. And if I was a little more, skeptical, government pushes to do things doesn't always manifest to a sense of urgency, does it now?
Yeah, that's true.
So some of the things around that, the availability bias, is, there's some people who are interested in it. They are, I could take the opportunity now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why not go for that? And again, given if we step back to that thing of you're thinking about the two routes that you might take,
Mm. Mm.
if someone comes along and starts to talk to you about a program of talking to teenagers, then you're going to gravitate towards that versus, if nobody yet has talked to you or you talk to them about your other route, then it's those things like the availability.
Mm-hmm.
Authority bias. You've kind of already, hang on a minute, there's a head teacher, yeah,
Yeah.
a superintendent of a school, but my phrasing, yeah, has talked about this. We naturally assume that they have some sense of authority or greater understanding about, this being a good idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing's true until it's a signed contract, really, is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, this is an area where the sense of social proof, yeah, I'm sure that you can very easily, very quickly point to what's going on in the world, that indicates there is a need for this. You're
Yeah.
looking for those pieces of social proof. If you talk to folks, and you get to say, "Oh, I was talking to my friend down the pub the other day, and he said it was a good idea." Yeah, and my mum said it was a good idea. Yeah, and Ian said it was a good idea. So
It must work.
all of those things are building up, to be
Yeah.
those biases around what you want to do. In the grand scheme of things, it's loss aversion. Is there something that says I potentially could lose more over there than I could over here? And there's some of those things around our ego. It's that
Mm-hmm.
ego protection. Is that
Yeah.
it's easier to feel that I'm making the right kind of decision over here, and it won't affect my status and standing and brand by making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
A lot that can be going on.
Yeah, loads, all of it.
All of it, yeah, in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So again, and all of those things can very quickly, just having that understanding, slow down your decision making. You go, actually, with all of this going on, I shouldn't make a decision at this point. When actually it's okay, I'm aware of all these things are going on. So either what's the mitigation, or, I make better use of that or dial it down or whatever else.
Yeah.
And or comes back to, if you put some time frame onto it. Okay, given all of those things, here's when I'm going to make the decision. Here's the trigger for that. Yeah. Here's the triangulation and the conversations from different perspectives that I've had on it that just improve that decision making process.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, really, what we're talking about is like getting out of your head and creating some action, because I heard it said recently, ideas are cheap. And it's true, isn't it? Like you can have loads of ideas. Like, this is an idea, and it's, it's not just about the money, but it hasn't made any money yet. It's, but loads of ideas and not enough action, because of, if I actually think about all of those biases, all of those conversations I've had in my head, I accumulated all the time, like, and we've made, in an hour, in 40 minutes, whatever it is, we've kind of, probably less than that, really, what we've been actually speaking about, the decision. 30 minutes in a conversation with Ian has made more clarity. That could have saved me hours and hours and hours. And if you're running a £1 million, multi-million pound business,
yeah,
send me the bill later.
You're right. I have a bias, which is a certain bias towards action. So it is, okay, you've now got this. You've now got some of this information. You've now got some of, and this understanding. There's one or two things that you now are aware of. So what are you going to do with them? I'm going to act. Yeah, I am going to go and talk to some folks. I am going to look at what I can spend and how I can spend it. I am going to go and find some more teachers to talk to. Yeah. So I have this kind of bias towards action.
I think I do too. I think probably most entrepreneurs do, don't they?
I suspect so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then we get burnt, and then we kind of end up in our heads going, ruminating on I should have done this, shouldn't have done that. I think there's this idea of like failing fast, but learn from the fail
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and do your trauma therapy if you if you get anything at the same
Yeah.
time. Have a coach,
Well,
have a coach.
I do like to think that
Nice.
people are more successful in life who do have, coaches and or mentors to help guide
Yeah.
their approaches to this. Clearly, there are some well-established multiple, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that have had multiple businesses, and many will tell you that they've learned from their failures. And equally well, there are some that have had multiple failures and still, are learning the same mistakes over and over. But I'm a firm believer in a quote that I heard a long time ago, a guy called Phil Hesketh, who said, lose but don't lose the lesson. You know,
Yeah.
really,
Nice.
that idea. You of course fail fast, yeah. But if all you're doing is that over and over, that's probably not very helpful. But it is having that opportunity to go, okay, so what was it that led to that failure, and what's the lesson I take away from that I want to apply next time around?
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Yeah. I think that in itself just justifies, obviously, if you're thinking about getting a coach, or there's a cost, isn't there? But then that justifies it if you're thinking like, what's the time I'm actually wasting here? And then this isn't a sales pitch for coaching, but it's just what I'm thinking at the moment. But it does justify, oh yeah, I'm wasting so much time. I need to make decisions. The cost, opportunity loss, first of all, of not making the decision, and like just time wasted of just
Yeah,
ruminating.
yeah.
Huge.
Because it comes back to that, to my mind, that thing of the benefit is exploring with somebody. Am I dangerously decisive, deciding too quickly, or am I overly procrastinating? And a coach may well be just very useful in making someone aware that they are being dangerously decisive, fire ready aim, or are they going, well, I'm still aiming, I'm still aiming, I'm still aiming, and it helps just get the process right. Slow potentially down those people that perhaps need to just reflect a little more, speeding up those people that maybe need a little bit more, impetus behind them.
And also getting into a community like yours where you've got kind of the peer support of
Absolutely.
other entrepreneurs
Yeah.
to call you forward on your indecision or
Correct.
guide you,
Correct. Yeah. And that piece afterwards, which is the follow up with the accountability. Yeah. So,
Yes. Yeah.
you've been pondering on this for however long, Ben, and we've explored it today and perhaps given you some wisdom. Is it
Mm.
the accountability piece to come back at some point in the near future and go, so what happened, Ben? Yeah, what did
Yeah.
you do? Yeah, did you do things you said you were going to do? And a peer group in that respect is hugely powerful.
Yeah. I call it mental masturbation when somebody's just thinking about things over and over again
Yeah, yeah.
without decide.
Provocative too, Ben. Provocative.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Just, sparks the brain a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
Ian, thank you for your time. If anybody would like to make a big decision and would
Yes.
like your guidance on that,
Yep.
how would they go about communicating with you?
They can go to my website, Ian at pricenewplace.co.uk is the website. You can get me on LinkedIn. You can drop me an email, Ian at
Okay.
ianpricenewplace.co.uk.
And your mastermind is sort of around Chichester area, right?
Yeah, we have a peer group that has members from Chichester, Portsmouth, Southampton, and the like. Yes,
But members travel far and wide to be there, is my understanding.
they do. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it's a place where people feel that they are safe, secure, seen, heard,
Yeah.
and get to share their wisdom and also get the benefit of others' wisdom.
Yeah, it's an excellent group. I've been to see one of Ian's groups, and it is phenomenal. Really high caliber individuals. Not anyone can just join. I think is
It is by invitation.
invitation, and I'm sure if you apply, you might get an invitation,
Indeed.
or you might not.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Cheers, Ian.
Ben, it's
Is there
been
anything else you want to say?
no, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you this morning. I look forward to seeing how that decision pans out then.
We'll do accountability next week.
Well,
Cheers. Bye-bye.
bye.
There we go. We're done. Well, that was a phenomenal podcast with Ian. What I learned from this session was that good decisions come from process, and most entrepreneurs, me included, sometimes we skip that process because we have a bias towards action. We've got a bias towards other things. Emotion isn't the enemy. It's just data. And the skill is noticing when an emotion is driving the decision and stepping back to observe it, the same way you'd step back and observe your thinking. I always trust my gut. It works some of the time, but as a default setting, it doesn't. I think there is a difference between men and women. I think we do decide differently on average. Archetypally, men tend to move faster, carry more overconfidence, tolerance to risk, seek less input. Women are more calibrated, weigh more carefully, and ask others. Neither is correct. The point is knowing your own patterns so you can correct it and recognize it. Most decisions that feel life-defining are not really that life-defining. You can always pilot something. You can trial it. You can test it. You can frame it differently. Start with the end in mind and chunk it down. What does success look like in a year, in a term, in a week, in a month? Set the indicator that tells you the trial is working. Set the trigger that tells you to reassess. So in your trial period, you have a period of time where you're working on it, and if you achieve something by this time, then it's great. If you don't, then you get back and you review. We, in the Kingmaker, in the initiation, we have a journal that I've created, which is very, very useful for creating those kind of structures and keeping you focused and on track, in a 90-day plan. I've created it for me, really, as the entrepreneur who's running the business to help me manage the rest of life. There's a business plan, but it's also my life plan as well. So there's the different biases that we talked about as well: the optimism bias, the urgency bias, the confirmation bias, the authority bias, the availability bias, social proof, and loss aversion and ego protection. These are all things that are running as biases in my mind. And there was loads of other really useful things in there. So hope that you took something away from that. I would love to hear what your comments are below. And if you're interested in stepping into learning more about who you are, why you're here, then you might want to have a look at the Kingmaker initiation program. It's a year-long rite of passage for men who want to discover who they are and why they're here. It's mainly for entrepreneurs and it's mainly for men. So if that's something you want to investigate, head over to coachbenprice.com, and you might want to start by coming along to one of the men's camps, which I usually run each month. They are oversubscribed. The next camp is already fully booked out, which is incredible. So really excited by that. Think getting together around a fire with a bunch of other entrepreneurs out in nature and the countryside, no phones, no politics, no religion, no current affairs, just you, nature, and a bunch of other really powerful, capable men who are all doing the deep work, understanding who they are and why they're here. So if that sounds like a piece of you, then get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. All right, lots of love and hope you enjoyed this episode.